I worked to build this life. You're just a parasite.
The phone rang at 11:47 p.m. while I was under the hood of a busted Chevy, grease coating my knuckles like war paint. Mr. Mallory, this is Dr. Martinez from Harbor Health Clinic. Your test results came back positive for chlamydia. I dropped my wrench. It clattered against the concrete floor of my garage, the sound echoing like a firecracker in the silence. That's impossible, I said, wiping my hands on my coveralls. I've been married for 18 years. I'm sorry, Eddie. The tests don't lie. You'll need to inform your partner and come in for treatment. Celia was on another business trip, third one this month. I stared at the note she'd left on the kitchen counter. Gone for the weekend. Don't wait up. Love, C. The handwriting looked rushed, guilty. My stomach twisted into knots as the pieces clicked together like a puzzle I'd been too stupid to solve. I called Tank at the boxing gym. You awake? Eddie? Christ, it's midnight. What's wrong? I need to hire someone, a private investigator. You know anybody? Tank was quiet for a moment. Frankie DeLuca. Used to be a cop before he got kicked off the force for drinking. He's good at finding things people don't want found. But Eddie, you sure you want to go down this road? I'm already on it. Frankie met me at Rosie's Diner the next morning. He looked exactly like what Central Casting would order for a washed-up Private Johnson. Stubbled face, coffee-stained shirt, eyes that had seen too much. So your wife's cheating, he said, stirring sugar into his third cup of coffee. How long you been suspicious? About 12 hours. I told him about the clinic call, the business trips, the way Celia had been dressing differently lately. Designer clothes, expensive perfume, new lingerie I never got to see her wear. Could be nothing, Frankie said, but his tone suggested otherwise. Could be everything. My rate is $300 a day plus expenses. You want me to follow her? I want you to find the truth. That was Tuesday. By Friday, Frankie called with results. Meet me at the marina, bring a strong stomach. He handed me a manila envelope thick with photographs and a stack of DVDs. The first photo showed Celia walking into the seaside motel with Grant Holman, the town's golden boy insurance agent. Grant was married to Susan, a sweet woman who volunteered at the animal shelter. They had 2 kids. There's more, Frankie said. Your wife's been busy. Real busy. The photos told the story. Celia with Grant, Celia with Tom Bradley from the bank, Celia with Dr. Peterson, our family physician. All of them married, all of them respectable pillars of our small New England community. The DVDs are worse, Frankie warned. Your wife's best friend Mona has been filming some of these encounters. Looks like she's got a whole collection. Mona Pierce, Pilates instructor, social butterfly. The woman my wife spent every Thursday evening with, supposedly doing yoga and drinking wine. The woman who'd been in my house countless times eating my food, smiling at my face while stabbing me in the back. Why would she film it? Blackmail, maybe. Or just kicks. Some people get off on other people's misery. Frankie lit a cigarette. What you gonna do, Eddie? I stared out at the harbor, watching the fishing boats bob in the gray morning light. This town had been my home for 43 years. I'd grown up here, met Celia here, raised our kids Jack and Lucy here. I'd fixed half the cars in town, coached Little League, paid my taxes, and minded my own business. I thought I was respected. Turns out I was just the last to know I was the town joke. I'm gonna make them pay. Saturday morning, I went to Kinko's and printed every photo. High-resolution, glossy paper. I wanted them to see every detail. Then I went home and got to work. I taped the photos to every surface in our house. Kitchen cabinets, bathroom mirrors, the refrigerator, the front door. I printed out text messages Frankie had somehow obtained. Dirty, explicit conversations between my wife and her lovers. I laminated those and hung them from the ceiling fan in our bedroom like a perverted mobile. The piece de resistance was the front yard. I bought a dozen yard signs, the kind people use for garage sales, and mounted the most damning photos on poster board. My wife spread eagle in our marital bed with Grant Holman. My wife on her knees in what looked like Tom Bradley's office. My wife and Dr. Peterson in positions that definitely weren't medical. I arranged them like a gallery exhibition across our front lawn, then packed a bag and drove to Tank's gym to wait. Mrs. Pruitt called Celia first. Our 70-year-old neighbor was the town's unofficial news network, and she'd struck gold. Celia, dear, you need to get home right now. There's quite a situation. I watched from my car across the street as Celia's BMW pulled into our driveway. She sat frozen behind the wheel for a full minute staring at the display. Neighbors had gathered on their porches and sidewalks, pointing and whispering. Some were taking pictures with their phones. When Celia finally got out of her car, her face was white as bone. She stumbled toward the front door, then stopped when she saw the photos taped there. Her scream could be heard 3 blocks away. "Eddie! Eddie, where are you?" I started my engine and drove away. In my rearview mirror, I could see her frantically tearing down the yard signs while Mrs. Pruitt and half the neighborhood watched. My phone started ringing immediately. Celia's ringtone, "Stand by Your Man" by Tammy Wynette. I'd programmed it as a joke years ago. Now it sounded like a funeral dirge. I let it go to voicemail. Tank let me sleep on the couch in his office above the gym. The place smelled like sweat, leather, and broken dreams. But it felt more like home than the house I'd shared with Celia for 15 years. "You really stirred up the hornet's nest," Tank said Monday morning, handing me coffee and the local newspaper. The headline read, "Local Scandal Rocks Harbor View Community." There was a photo of our house with the yard signs blurred out, but everyone in town knew what they showed. My phone had 67 missed calls from Celia, 23 from my son Jack, and 15 from my daughter Lucy. The voicemail started apologetic and turned increasingly hostile. "Dad, what the heck is wrong with you?" Lucy's voice was shrill with teenage indignation. "Mom made a mistake, but you're destroying our family. Everyone at school is talking about it. I can't even show my face." Jack was more direct. "You're pathetic, Dad. Mom says you're having a breakdown. Maybe you should check yourself into a mental hospital before you hurt someone." That one stung. My own kids choosing their cheating mother over their humiliated father. But it also clarified things. This wasn't just about Celia anymore. This was about respect, about showing everyone in this town that Eddie Mallory wasn't going to roll over and play dead. Grant Holman called Tuesday afternoon. "Eddie, we need to talk, man to man." "I'm listening. Meet me at the marina. Pier 7, and Eddie, come alone." I almost laughed. Grant thought this was some kind of movie where the wronged husband and the pretty boy lover would have a civilized conversation and work things out like gentlemen. He had no idea who he was dealing with. Grant was waiting by his boat when I arrived, a 30-foot cabin cruiser called Golden Dreams. Everything about Grant was golden. His hair, his tan, his smile, his reputation. He'd been prom king, star quarterback. And now he sold insurance to half the town while screwing their wives. "Eddie, I'm glad you came." He extended his hand like we were old friends meeting for drinks. "I know this is awkward, but I think we can work this out." I ignored his hand. "Work what out exactly?" "Look, what happened between Celia and me, it just happened. We never meant for it to go this far. But what you did Saturday, putting those pictures everywhere, that was cruel. Not just to Celia, but to our kids, to Susan. She's filing for divorce." "Good for her. She deserves better than a cheating piece of garbage." Grant's golden smile flickered. "I know you're angry, but think about Lucy and Jack. They're getting crucified at school because of your little stunt. Is that what you want?" "What I want is for people to know the truth about my wife and about you." "The truth?" Grant laughed, but there was no humor in it. "The truth is, your wife was lonely, Eddie. When's the last time you took her somewhere nice? Bought her flowers? Made her feel like a woman instead of a maid?" Something hot and violent surged through my chest. "So, it's my fault?" "I'm just saying maybe if you'd paid more attention to your wife, she wouldn't have needed to look elsewhere for affection." I grabbed Grant by his polo shirt and slammed him against the side of his boat. He was taller than me, but soft, pampered. I'd been swinging hammers and lifting engines for 25 years. He sold insurance and played golf. "Let me tell you something, Grant. I worked 60-hour weeks to pay for that house, those cars, those clothes she's wearing while she's screwing you. I coached my kids' teams, fixed the neighbors' cars for free, and never once cheated on my wife. So don't you dare tell me this is my fault. Eddie, calm down. People are watching." He was right. A few fishermen had stopped to stare. I loosened my grip, but didn't let go. "Here's what's going to happen. You're going to stay away from my wife. You're going to tell everyone in town that you pursued her, that she was the victim of your manipulation, and you're going to write a check to Susan for whatever she asks for in the divorce. And if I don't," I smiled, and Grant's face went pale, "then those photos of you and Celia are going to every insurance company in New England, along with the ones of you and Mrs. Henderson from the country club, and the ones of you and that college girl who works at the bank." Grant's mouth fell open. "How did you?" "Frankie's very thorough. Turns out you've been a busy boy, Grant. Almost as busy as my wife." I released him and stepped back. Grant straightened his shirt with shaking hands. You're making a mistake, Eddie. I have friends in this town. Important friends. So did I, until they started screwing my wife. Frankie's investigation had uncovered more than just Celia's affairs. It had revealed an entire network of infidelity running through Harbor View's upper crust like a cancer. The country club crowd, the town council members, the business leaders, they were all connected in ways that would make a soap opera writer blush. It's like a crazy key party from the 70s, Frankie said, spreading photos across his desk. Your wife was just one player in a much bigger game. The photos showed couples swapping partners at parties I'd never been invited to. Mona Pierce was in half of them, always watching, always recording. She was the hub around which everything revolved. Mona's the one pulling the strings, I realized. She's been blackmailing them. That's my guess. She's got dirt on everyone, and they're all too scared to cross her. Frankie pointed to a photo of Mona with Mayor Davidson's wife. She's building a power base. Information is currency, and she's rich as Croesus. What's her endgame? Control. She wants to run this town from the shadows, and she's using seduction as her tool. I studied the photos, seeing my wife's betrayal in a new light. Celia wasn't just a cheating spouse. She was a pawn in Mona's game. That didn't excuse what she'd done, but it explained the scope of it. I want everything you have on Mona Pierce. Eddie, this woman is dangerous. She's destroyed lives, broken up families, ruined careers. If you go after her, she already went after me. She turned my wife into a tool and aimed her at my heart. Now it's my turn. My former friends started avoiding me after the photo incident. 20 years of friendship evaporated overnight. They crossed the street when they saw me coming, stopped talking when I entered Rosie's diner, and generally treated me like I had a contagious disease. It all came to a head Thursday night at Murphy's bar. I walked in around 9, needing a beer and some normalcy. The place went quiet like a saloon in an old western. My usual crew, Dave, Tony, and Mike, were huddled around their regular table, but they didn't wave me over. I ordered a Budweiser and sat at the bar. Behind me, I could hear whispered conversations and nervous laughter. Finally, Dave approached. Eddie, maybe you should drink somewhere else tonight. Dave Romano had been my best friend since high school. I'd been best man at his wedding, godfather to his oldest son. We'd shared everything until now. Why's that, Dave? Come on, man. You know why. What you did to Celia was wrong, way wrong. We all feel bad for you, but putting those pictures out there for the whole town to see, that's not how you handle things. How should I have handled it? Quietly, let everyone keep laughing at me behind my back. You could have divorced her like a normal person. You didn't have to humiliate her. I turned on my bar stool to face the room. Dave, Tony, Mike, and half a dozen other guys I'd known for decades were all staring at me like I was the villain in this story. Humiliate her? I stood up, my voice carrying across the suddenly silent bar. She humiliated me. She humiliated our kids. She humiliated our marriage. I just made sure everyone knew about it. That's not your call to make, Tony said. He was a big man, a construction foreman, with hands like sledgehammers. What happens between a husband and wife should stay between them. Even when the wife is screwing half the town, especially then, Mike chimed in. Mike owned the hardware store where I bought my tools. His wife, Janet, was one of Celia's yoga buddies. You made all of us look bad, Eddie. Our wives are asking questions now, wondering if we're all cheaters. The truth hit me like a punch to the gut. They weren't angry because I'd humiliated Celia. They were angry because I'd threatened their own secrets. How many of them were part of Mona's network? How many of their wives had been at those parties? Maybe they should be asking questions, I said. Maybe all the wives in this town should know what their husbands are really doing. Dave stepped closer, his face flushed with anger. You need to back off, Eddie. Right now, before you say something you can't take back. Or what? You'll throw me out of my own hometown? Turn all my friends against me? I laughed bitterly. Too late, Dave. You already did that. We're trying to help you, man. You're having some kind of breakdown. Maybe you should talk to someone, get some help. I don't need help. I need justice. That's when Tony grabbed my arm. You need to leave. Now. I looked down at his hand on my arm, then back up at his face. Take your hand off me, Tony. Or what? 25 years of boxing training kicked in. I twisted out of Tony's grip and drove my elbow into his solar plexus. He doubled over, gasping. Mike lunged at me from the side, but I caught him with a right cross that sent him stumbling into a table. Dave held up his hands. Eddie, stop! This isn't you. No, Dave, this is exactly me. This is who I am when people I trusted stab me in the back. I threw a 20 on the bar and walked out. Behind me, I could hear Tony wheezing and Mike cursing. The bartender was already on the phone, probably calling the cops. My phone rang as I got to my car. Celia's ringtone again. This time, I answered. Eddie, what have you done? Celia's voice was raw from crying. Tony Romano is in the emergency room. Mike Bradley has a broken nose. The police are looking for you. Good. Maybe now people will take me seriously. This has to stop. You're scaring the kids. Lucy won't even come home anymore. She's staying at her friend's house because she's afraid of what you might do. That stung. My daughter was afraid of me, but she should have thought about that before she chose her cheating mother's side. Where are you calling from? Mona's house. She's letting me stay here until this all blows over. Of course. Mona Pierce, the puppet master, gathering her pawns around her. Put her on the phone. Eddie, put her on the phone, or I'm coming over there. There was a pause, then Mona's voice came through the speaker, smooth as silk, confident as a politician. Hello, Eddie. I'm so sorry about all this. Celia's devastated, you know. She never meant for things to go this far. Cut the BS, Mona. I know what you've been doing. The filming, the blackmail, the whole sick network you've built. It ends now. Mona laughed, a sound like breaking glass. I don't know what you're talking about, Eddie. I'm just trying to help my friend through a difficult time. Your friend? You turned her into a hoe and filmed it for your collection. That's not friendship, that's exploitation. Celia made her own choices. I never forced her to do anything. No, you just provided the opportunities and documented the results. How many people are you blackmailing, Mona? How many marriages have you destroyed for your own entertainment? The line was quiet for a moment. When Mona spoke again, her voice was different, colder, more honest. You have no idea what you're dealing with, Eddie. I've been building something here, something bigger than your little blue-collar brain can comprehend. This town runs on secrets, and I own them all. Cross me, and I'll destroy what's left of your pathetic life. My life's already destroyed. You made sure of that. But here's the thing, Mona. When you've got nothing left to lose, you become very dangerous. Is that a threat? It's a promise. I hung up and drove to Frankie's office. Frankie was waiting with a bottle of whiskey and a stack of files thick as phone books. Heard about the bar fight. You're making enemies fast. They were never really friends. I poured 2 glasses and sat down. Tell me about Mona Pierce. Born Monica Kowalski in Boston. Changed her name when she moved here 10 years ago. Before that, she was involved in some kind of scandal. Embezzlement from a non-profit where she worked. Charges were dropped, but she left town in a hurry. So she's done this before. Looks like it. She's got a pattern. Moves to a new place, integrates herself into the social scene, then starts collecting secrets. She's like a virus. She infects the community from within. I flipped through the files. Photos, financial records, phone logs, hotel receipts. Mona had been busy since arriving in Harborview. She'd had affairs with married men, seduced lonely wives, and documented everything. She's got a safety deposit box at First National, Frankie continued. Probably where she keeps the really damaging stuff. Insurance in case anyone tries to cross her. Can you get into it? Not legally, but I might know someone who can. I studied a photo of Mona with Judge Harrison's wife. They were in what looked like a hotel room, both partially undressed. Judge Harrison had presided over my cousin's divorce case last year, ruling in favor of the wife despite clear evidence of her infidelity. She's been playing puppet master for years, I realized. Influencing court cases, business deals, elections. Everyone's dancing to her tune because they're terrified of what she might reveal. The question is, what are you going to do about it? I finished my whiskey and stood up. I'm going to burn it all down. Frankie's contact was a woman named Riley who worked nights as a cleaning lady at the bank. For $500, she agreed to let us in after hours and look the other way while we accessed Mona's safety deposit box. I don't know what you're looking for, Riley said, as she led us through the darkened bank, but that Pierce woman gives me the creeps, always coming in here with that fake smile, acting like she owns the place. The safety deposit box was stuffed with DVDs, photographs, and documents. Mona had been thorough. She had dirt on everyone from the mayor to the police chief. Financial irregularities, intimate indiscretions, family secrets that would destroy lives if revealed. Jesus Christ, Frankie whispered, holding up a photo of Police Chief Morrison with someone who definitely wasn't his wife. No wonder you couldn't get a fair hearing from the cops. I found what I was looking for at the bottom of the box, a DVD labeled CM Collection, and a manila folder with my wife's name on it. Inside the folder were photos I'd never seen, more explicit than anything Frankie had shown me. There were also financial documents showing payments from Mona to various men around town. She was paying them, I said, showing Frankie the bank records. Grant, Tom Bradley, Dr. Peterson, they were all getting money from her. She was hiring them to seduce your wife? More than that, she was building a case against Celia. Look at these dates. Every encounter was documented, every payment recorded. She was setting Celia up for something. The truth hit me like a sledgehammer. This wasn't about passion or loneliness. It was about revenge. Mona had targeted my wife specifically, turned her into a tool, and then used her to destroy our family. But why? I found the answer in another folder, one with my name on it. Inside were newspaper clippings from 12 years ago, when I testified in a harassment case against Mona's ex-husband. My testimony had helped convict him, sending him to prison for 3 years. She's been planning this for over a decade, I told Frankie. Everything, the affairs, the humiliation, turning my kids against me, it's all been revenge for something I did 12 years ago. What did you do? I told the truth. Her ex-husband was beating his girlfriend, and I witnessed one of the attacks. I testified at his trial. Frankie shook his head. 12 years. That's some serious commitment to revenge. I started stuffing documents and DVDs into a duffel bag. She destroyed my life for doing the right thing. Now it's time to return the favor. I spent the next 3 days making copies of everything from Mona's collection. Photos, videos, financial records, personal documents, enough evidence to destroy every reputation in Harborview's social elite. Then I got creative. First, I created anonymous email accounts and sent the most damaging material to the local newspaper, the state attorney general's office, and the IRS. Judge Harrison's tax evasion, Mayor Davidson's kickback scheme, Police Chief Morrison's evidence tampering, all of it documented in Mona's meticulous records. Next, I printed flyers with the juiciest photos and posted them around town. The grocery store, the post office, the school pickup line, anywhere people gathered, they found images of their neighbors' secret lives. But the masterstroke was the website. I hired a tech-savvy kid from the community college to build a site called Harborview Secrets. Every photo, every document, every piece of dirt from Mona's collection went online for the world to see. Within hours, it was the most visited website in town history. My phone started ringing at 6 a.m. Thursday morning. First the newspaper, then the police, then lawyers representing half the people I'd exposed. I let them all go to voicemail. The only call I answered was from Tank. "Eddie, you need to get down here. There's a mob forming outside the gym." I drove through downtown on my way to Tank's place. It looked like a war zone. Angry crowds gathered on street corners, shouting at each other. I saw Judge Harrison's wife screaming at Mayor Davidson in front of the town hall. Police cars were everywhere, but the cops looked lost. Half of them were probably implicated in the scandal. Tank was waiting in the parking lot with a baseball bat. "It's getting ugly out there. Half the town wants to lynch you, the other half wants to shake your hand." "Which half are you?" Tank grinned. "I'm proud of you, kid. You took on the whole corrupt system and won. I'm not done yet." The annual Harborview Fall Festival was scheduled for Saturday, rain or shine. Despite everything that had happened, the town council decided to go ahead with it, probably hoping to project some sense of normalcy while their world collapsed around them. I had other plans. The festival was held in Harbor Park, right on the waterfront. Food trucks, carnival rides, a bandstand where local politicians usually gave speeches about community values and small-town virtue. This year, those speeches would have a different flavor. I arrived early, while the vendors were still setting up. The festival committee had hired a local DJ, but I'd made arrangements with him the night before. For $1,000, he agreed to let me make an announcement from the bandstand. By noon, the festival was in full swing, despite the tension hanging over the town like a storm cloud. Families tried to maintain the pretense of normalcy, but I could see the strain in their faces. Marriages were cracking, friendships were ending, and everyone was looking over their shoulders. Celia was there with Mona, both of them trying to act like nothing had happened. They were surrounded by a small group of supporters, mostly women who blamed me for destroying the town's peace. My kids were with them, still choosing their mother's side. At 2 p.m., I climbed onto the bandstand and took the microphone. "Ladies and gentlemen, can I have your attention, please?" The crowd turned toward me, Hundreds of faces, registering shock, anger, and curiosity. Celia went pale. Mona stepped behind her, suddenly looking less confident. My name is Eddie Mallory. Some of you know me as the guy who fixes your cars, coaches your kids' baseball teams, and minds his own business. Others know me as the man who's been exposing the truth about what's really been happening in our town. Someone in the crowd shouted, "You're destroying families." "No," I replied, my voice carrying across the park through the PA system. "I'm revealing what was already destroyed. The families that are falling apart now were built on lies. The reputations that are crumbling were based on deception. The community leaders who are resigning in disgrace were corrupt long before I said a word." I pulled out a folder thick with documents. For the past 12 years, a woman named Monica Kowalski, who you know as Mona Pierce, has been systematically destroying this town from within. She's blackmailed your leaders, corrupted your officials, and turned your neighbors into tools against each other. Mona started pushing through the crowd toward the exit, but people blocked her way. They wanted to hear this. She targeted my wife as part of an elaborate revenge scheme. She hired men to seduce her, filmed their encounters, and used the evidence to destroy my family. Why? Because 12 years ago, I testified against her ex-husband when he was charged with domestic violence. The crowd was murmuring now, angry voices rising. I saw Police Chief Morrison trying to reach his radio, probably calling for backup. But here's what Mona didn't count on, I continued. She didn't expect me to fight back. She thought I'd just roll over and take it like a good little victim. She was wrong. I held up a DVD. This contains every piece of blackmail material Mona collected over the past decade. Every photo, every video, every document she used to control your lives. As of this morning, copies have been sent to the FBI, the state police, and the Attorney General's office. The crowd erupted. Some people were cheering, others were screaming. I saw several men rushing toward Mona, their faces twisted with rage. She was trapped in the middle of the crowd, no longer the puppet master, but just another victim of the chaos she'd created. "The corruption ends today," I shouted over the noise. "The blackmail ends today. The lies end today." That's when Grant Holman broke through the crowd and charged the bandstand. He was screaming something about his ruined life, his lost family, his destroyed reputation. Behind him came Tom Bradley and Dr. Peterson, all of them looking for someone to blame for their downfall. I stepped down from the bandstand to meet them. Grant reached me first, swinging wildly. I ducked under his punch and drove my fist into his solar plexus. He folded like a lawn chair, gasping for air. Tom Bradley grabbed me from behind, but I elbowed him in the ribs and spun around with an uppercut that dropped him to his knees. Dr. Peterson was smarter. He stopped running when he saw what happened to the other two. The crowd had formed a circle around us, some cheering, others recording with their phones. This would be on social media within minutes, spreading across the internet like wildfire. "Is that all of you?" I shouted, looking around the circle. "Anyone else want to blame me for your own choices?" Silence. I walked over to where Mona was cowering behind a group of women. She looked small now, powerless, just another middle-aged woman whose schemes had finally collapsed. 12 years, I said, loud enough for everyone to hear. 12 years you spent planning your revenge against me. You destroyed my marriage, turned my children against me, and made me a laughingstock in my own hometown. All because I told the truth about your criminal ex-husband. Mona's mask finally slipped. The fake smile, the practiced charm, the manipulative warmth, all of it fell away, revealing the bitter, vindictive woman underneath. "You destroyed my life first!" she hissed. "You sent the father of my children to prison. I sent a woman beater to prison where he belonged. And now you're going to join him." Police sirens were getting closer. The FBI would be here soon, along with state investigators and federal prosecutors. Mona's safety deposit box contents had revealed crimes that went far beyond small-town corruption. I looked out at the crowd, at the faces of people I'd known my whole life. Some were angry, some were grateful, most were just confused. Their world had been turned upside down in a matter of days. "This town was sick," I said, my voice carrying across the suddenly quiet park, "infected with secrets and lies and corruption. Sometimes you have to burn out the infection to save the patient." I walked over to where Celia stood with our children. Lucy was crying. Jack was staring at the ground. My wife looked like she'd aged 10 years in the past week. "I'm sorry it had to be this way," I told her, "but I'm not sorry I did it." Celia nodded, tears streaming down her face. "I know. I'm the one who should be sorry." "Yeah, you should be." I turned to my kids. I love you both. When you're ready to hear my side of the story, you know where to find me. The police were arriving now, along with news trucks and federal agents. Harbor View's quiet corruption had become a national story. The small town where one man's revenge exposed an entire network of blackmail and political manipulation. I walked through the crowd toward my truck, feeling lighter than I had in years. Behind me, I could hear Mona being read her rights, Grant and Tom being loaded into ambulances, and hundreds of conversations as people tried to process what they'd just witnessed. My phone buzzed with a text message from an unknown number. "Mr. Mallory, this is Agent Sarah Chen with the FBI. We'd like to speak with you about testifying in several federal cases. Your evidence has been invaluable." I smiled and typed back, "Happy to help. Justice is my specialty." As I drove out of Harbor Park, I passed a news van with a reporter doing a live broadcast. I caught a few words through my open window. Explosive revelations, corruption scandal, one man's quest for justice. They called me a villain. But villains don't expose corruption. They profit from it. Villains don't fight for truth. They bury it. Villains don't sacrifice everything for justice. They sacrifice everything for power. I wasn't the villain in this story. I was the reckoning.